Asè Axé Ashé, and welcome to the Asè Shop podcast. I am Ashley, your Orisha storyteller, and story times is my readings and retellings of various stories and patakis of the Orisha. It's my prayer that these stories uplift you if you are down, expand your perspective, and strengthen your faith in yourself and Olodumare. This story is entitled Obatala's Insanity, and you can read this story for yourself in Osogbo by Ochani Lili. Before I get started, I just wanted to explain that Osogbo is a misfortune or an imbalance, what can be seen as sin or weakness or just things that go wrong in our life. One of the misfortunes we're discussing today is called Araye. And Araye is that wickedness, that sickness, that illness that gets in your head. And a lot of us can literally see this as mental illness. So let's get into this story titled Obatala's Insanity. Araye saw a great weakness in the Orisha Obatala. He cared too much about wickedness staining the world. At night in the shadows she came to him, showing him in his dreams every wicked thing that crept across the earth. After years of this, Obatala broke. He could not handle the nightmares anymore. On the night he broke, he awake suddenly, covered in sweat, his body shaking with rage and fear. Every night had been like this for longer than he cared to remember. He would lay his head on his pillow and close his eyes, weary from the day's labor. As soon as his body went limp, his mind raced. He dreamed of all the pain and suffering existing in the world. He saw humans with bodies contorted and twisted in the most horrible shapes, afflicted with disease that ate the flesh antagonizingly and slowly. He heard mothers and fathers cry as their children died before their time. He saw entire countries rising against one another in war, murdering the innocent for no reason other than the color of their skin or the stain of their faith. He saw murder, rape, torture, arson, and every evil thing that humans do to one another in desperation. All that pain bore down on him like a crushing weight until he couldn't breathe. All that pain tormented his head and he suffered. Sometimes he felt the world's pain. It was physical and it was intolerable. One question burned his thoughts. Why, in a world created by Olodumare's own hands, why does such pain exist? He reached out with his mind and could feel every bit of it in the world. He wanted to know the torment of the human soul and the anguish it encompassed. Like a tsunami, despair swept over him, ate him up, and pushed him to his limits. It was then that Obatala went quite mad. In his madness, he robed himself in black cloth, grabbed a machete, and rode out into the night. Like a sinister shadow, he swept the globe, wailing like an Osogbo and beheading everyone who stood in his way. The more he killed, the more he wanted to kill. And like an insatiable force of nature, he pillaged, he plundered, he avenged every horrible act in the world that with brute strength. A great cry rose to the heaven that night because in his insanity, Obatala murdered not only the guilty, but also the innocent, for all human hearts contained wickedness. Olofin heard their cries. He took form and went to earth to stop Obatala. The Orisha was about to murder an innocent woman when Olofin stood between them and he held out his arms and he said, "Oh no, my son, you can't do this. You are not well. The world is afraid of you. Come here." Obatala stiffened with rage, his blood boiling. He said, "I am not well. The world is not well and I could fix it. I can destroy everything and start it all up again." His eyes were bloodshot with madness. Obatala, look around you, Olofin pleaded. You are murdering the innocent along with the guilty. He pointed to the woman Obatala was about to behead. She is a mother with 8 children. If you take her, she will have no one. Look inside her heart, Olofin. Obatala's voice was gravelly and rough. She is a thief. She robbed people who work hard for their livelihood, and she is a prostitute. She is vile. She must die. Look deeper, Obatala. ordered Olofin, his voice calm but firm and unyielding. Look deeper inside her and see why she does this. Obatala touched her head. He wanted to crush it, but with Olofi watching, he restrained himself. He closed his eyes and looked inside her head. He saw flashes of her youth, an alcoholic father and an abusive mother. He saw her husband raping and beating her. He saw the husband abandoning her for another woman and leaving her with 8 children to take care of in this world by herself. He saw her pain, her anguish, and how her heart broke every time she robbed somebody, every time she turned a trick, every time she didn't know how she was going to feed her family. Obatala trembled with the hint of sanity returning to his eyes. He said, Olofin, what have I done? The Orisha collapsed into Olofi's arms, and together the two fell to the earth. For hours they sat there, Olofin comforting Obatala and Obatala sobbing uncontrollably. When Obatala's eyes closed from exhaustion, the mighty Olofin raised an arm to heaven, and a strong shift wind carried them home. No one ever saw insanity in Obatala again. It was said that he lives in Olofin's palace in Orun in heaven. Olofi is afraid of what might happen to the world if Obatala Ugana gets unrestrained. And for now, the world is saved, and we are saved. But the Osogbo Araye, she still plots. Ashe, Ashe. This story, it stings at my heart every single time. And that's a part of the reason I had to read it like Ochanili Lili wrote it, because in his writing, he paints a picture of the Patakis pretty much as he would have seen it. And it's my job as a storyteller to translate that to y'all, because what we see here, this story, and it has to remind you of stories that you've seen within the Bible, where God comes down in force against the world and punishes the world. You have to remember that Obatala is Olodumare and Olofi's presence here on earth. So him losing his mind, this is kind of like God with the flood, God with the plagues, God with just wiping people out with disease and famine. But here we have Araye, who's literally been plotting and planning on Obatala for a minute. This isn't something just a impulsive thought that happened. Araye had been working on Obatala for a minute. And let's think about some of the things in our life that have literally that cause an imbalance with us, being in abusive relationships, being in imbalanced friendships, being in jobs where we're not appreciated, not being in positions to express ourselves freely and really go after our dreams. That illness of taking on that stress starts to build up. And that's when that Osogbo Araye comes in, giving you wicked thoughts, which we can see as negative thoughts, negative thinking, especially negative self-talk. I hope this story allows you to see that no matter how good our intentions, sometimes we can do bad things, but that does not mean that we're bad. It's important for us to keep our ori cleansed and calm and rest our minds so that we are able to achieve balance and achieve iwapele, good character, within ourselves. Did this story bring up any memories, or does it remind you of any other stories that you've heard? I look forward to hearing from you. And if you have any story requests, feel free to email me at ashley@theasheshop.com. Also visit theasheshop.com, where you can register for classes, book a personal reading, and stock up on your spiritual bath and body products. Until next time, Asè Axé Ashé.